We're recording.
All right. Well, welcome to another Tuesday tasting from Tipple's. This is Jeff and Elizabeth Vaudrey, and our beautiful daughter Ashley's with us this week. So very excited. We are going to be tasting a really neat wine. This is the Cleto Chiarli Lambrusco Grasparossa. So wow, that's a lot of Italian, and I'm not great at it. But anyway, so a dry sparkling red from northern Italy. The Lambrusco region is famous for, it's kind of actually infamous for sweet wines, but they've really changed the way they're making wines, but we'll get into that a little bit more as we go into it. So this particular Lambrusco is a recent 91 points from James Suckling. It's a great balanced dry red, and I think, you know, when you talk about temperature and seasonal appropriateness for wines, because really in the end it doesn't matter, because I know plenty of people that will drink big Cabernet Sauvignon in 98-degree weather, but these guys, if you're going to drink a red, a nice sparkling red is a fantastic option. So if you guys haven't already opened it up, feel free to pop open your Lambrusco. Why don't we just use the one that she had from the other room?
I'm empty-handed here.
How much should I pour it?
No, you can have a full glass because we're drinking at home. So.
Okay.
You're good. And by full glass, I didn't mean to the brim.
They're big glasses.
So, I tell you, one of the most interesting things about opening Lambruscos is that their cork is held to that metal bar. Did any of you guys wrestle with that?
Yeah, how do you open
Hardest part is just getting it open. So.
Right? Yeah, it is. And actually, there are articles that say that about Lambruscos, that say the hardest thing about Lambrusco is getting to it because they use that metal bar across there. So some of you guys were here when we tasted the red blend called Le Mistral, about a month ago, and that was when we covered how to handle opening a wine bottle that's covered in wax. And then the answer to that is you ignore the wax. You just open it, you just drill right through the wax, pretend it's not there, and you pop it right open, and it's the way to go. So I thought, well, there must be some better way than what I'm doing, which is I would just open up the foil cutter knife on my wine opener and pry the metal off and open it up in there. So I thought, well, let me do a little research on opening Lambrusco and come up with a neat tip or trick that I could share with you guys. And what they said was the tip is you use your foil cutter knife and pry the metal off. There's no trick. There's nothing. There's no way to make it easy. So anyway, cheers to everybody. Here's to the first sips.
All right. Good.
I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, you literally just pry it open there, Dave.
Pry it open.
Holy jeez.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's actually really easy. You just pop it from the side.
Luckily, part two is easy. It just pops right off there after that. So the ideal temperature, serving temperature for this wine is full on sparkling coolness. So your 40 to 45 degrees is where you want to be. They call this guy frizzante, so lightly sparkling.
Sure.
To be honest, I would call it full sparkling, but okay, I'll go with them. Pairings for Lambrusco. Yeah, let's go ahead and do the sign. You. So pairings for Lambrusco are really flexible. It's actually, this can go with barbecue, burgers, pizza, spicy Thai food, prosciutto, sharp cheeses. You can almost be all over the place with this. Casual Italian, spaghetti and meatballs, that kind of a thing would be fantastic.
I realized when I brought it to you, and I
So this Lambrusco is a dry Lambrusco. In Italy, that's referred to as a secco, S-E-C-C-O. So this is a secco dry red. I started talking about this earlier, but I'm going to get back into it now, which is Lambrusco really damaged its reputation in the 1970s in the 70s, when the international market for wine exploded, I'm going to guess it really had a lot to do with us becoming good at shipping around the world and keeping containers air conditioned. So in the 70s, when there was this mad rush to send wines all around the world, Lambrusco just decided, what can we make quickly and cheaply? And that was the sweet ones. It doesn't take as long to ferment because you're leaving most of the sugar in the wine. And they sent this very sweet, not interesting wine all around the world, and it became infamous, really, as, oh, Lambrusco. I drink real wine. Thank you very much. Since then, they have been really working hard to change that opinion, and they've really updated their wine making techniques. I think this guy shows that. I mean, this is not some flabby version of alcoholic. There's a nice minerality to this, nice dryness to this guy. They do run. There are sweeter Lambrusco still. Semi-secco would be slightly sweet, and then Dolce is full sweet. Dolce is now one of the least produced versions of Lambrusco by a long shot. So they pretty much left almost all of that sweet past in the past. So I get a lot of classically dry red Italian wines have a floral component. It almost doesn't seem to matter which grape. And I would say that holds true to this. There's kind of a roses and violets quality to this wine.
It's dry, it's not sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Spicy food.
Right.
And it is completely dry, which is really nice.
Like too spicy.
Yeah, I like it too.
Well, I would say like a black cherry and a cranberry quality to the fruit on these guys.
Keep on going.
After you pointed out, then I can taste it.
And then there's the minerality because of the earth that they have there. To me, there's a graphite quality to this, which is a little bit like pencil red kind of thing. It's that dryness across there. I don't know.
That dry, like chalkiness to it.
Right, and the chalkiness too comes from there's some tannin. So I think it's kind of fun that this is here we have a sparkling red wine that actually has some tannin left in it that you can feel gripping your tongue.
What do you think?
Asphalt. And they looked at you and you're laughing.
You guys are muted.
Okay.
Kiwi approved on the tannins.
Yeah, nailed it. So in Lambrusco, there are. Can we switch over to the?
You want me to share again?
Yep, here again. And I put them. I think I'm going to change my mind on the order.
Okay.
So let's go forward.
Forward.
Yep, and then forward
Okay.
and forward.
Okay.
All right. So here we go. So the Lambrusco region is when you look at this map of Italian grape growing areas. In the not the extreme, not the top left, but the orange that is in the top center of the country, that is where Lambrusco is.
Here,
Yep, right there.
but I don't think they can see my pointer.
Okay. So
I can see it, yeah.
Yeah.
You can? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So that's where the Lambrusco region is. They technically have 10 different grape varietals that they grow there, but it's a technicality. Italians very often will have the exact same grape, and it's grown. It's like, hey, my uncle Luigi was growing this grape, and then they'll call it the Luigi version of that. It's the same grape. So they have 10. They claim 10 different varietals, but the truth is, it boils down to 4 different varietals that they grow in there, and they're all very closely related. They all start with the word Lambrusco. And then from there you have the Lambrusco sorbata, the Maestri, the Grasparossa, which is what we're drinking tonight, and the Salamino.
And that's just all from different people making it.
These are actually distinct different grapes
Okay.
Within there, though they do have a lot of similarities. But they are distinct. Like they actually make very different. And so like the first one, the sorbata.
Continue sharing or taking it?
No, we can take it. Thank you. So the Lambrusco, and I kind of want to cover this because I think Lambrusco as a region is worth looking into. So I thought I'd cover a little bit of what you could taste with different Lambruscos, not just the one we're drinking tonight. So the sorbata is the lightest and most feminine of their grapes. It's the most floral, and it is a lighter color, almost like a dark rosé. Then the Grasparossa, which is what we're drinking tonight, it's the boldest and darkest of them, which I liked. I wanted something kind of robust and very much like a nice strong red wine, but sparkling. Then the Maestri is the grapiest of them. The Maestri and the last one, the Salamino, were the ones used for the sweet version of it. The Salamino is named because they actually have a salami-shaped grape, and it means salami. Salami too.
Is that like those, like when you see finger grapes here, like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think finger
the long.
grapes, so they must have their fingers, they roll the salamis like us, so, okay.
Rachel, what you thinking about this guy?
It's got a unusual kind of effervescence to it that I'm not used to feeling and tasting in like a champagne or even a prosecco. I'm not usually a sweet wine person. I'm not usually a sweet prosecco person unless you're trying to get rid of a bunch of triple sec and some cheap fruit. But with this, there's a fuzz, a fizz, and fizz seems demeaning. But there's some sort of effervescence in it that just is very, very palatable, that makes it higher class.
Oh, right.
Kind of red sparkling.
They use the Charmant method, which comes from the Champagne region when they get the effervescence in these. It's not forced carbonated; it's a natural carbonation, and because of the more viscous nature of red wine, they call it creating a creaminess, which I think is an odd. I think it's probably something with interpretation of the word from Italian to English, because it doesn't quite come across the right way. But you're right. It's got this robust thickness to the fizziness to it. Yeah, that I think is really good.
I agree with her.
It's like mouthfeel when we talk about beer.
It's a what?
It's like mouthfeel. Something people talk about in beer. It's got a silky mouthfeel, but it's not really specific.
What is their method for that, Jeff? How do they get that the carbonation in it? What do they do?
What they do is after they go through initial fermentation, they redose it with some unfermented grape must, which is the exact same grapes but unfermented, to reinvigorate it, but within a tank that will then not allow any of the CO2 to escape. So it's a lot like natural carbonation in beer production, when you add a little bit of fermentable sugar back into it and then you cap it off and it makes its own. It's similar to that. In this case, they hold a little bit of the unfermented grape juice that is wine quality. It's called must. So they hold a little bit of the must aside. And then they do it. By the way, one of the things they talk about with this, and I'm really getting it a little bit more now, is pepperiness. And let it play around on your tongue a little bit.
Now, I wasn't getting any of that at the beginning.
Yeah, that's that makes me happy. There's some nice.
You don't taste anything, right?
I have no taste buds, basically.
I may have missed this. I've never seen anything like this before. I may have missed the explanation.
Pop it out.
No, it literally is just a traditional Lambrusco enclosure. It's what they chose to do. Their version of the cork cage, which they use for most sparkling, but it was originally created up in Champagne. So it's just their version of a cork cage.
I didn't like it because it was hard to open.
What was what?
I didn't hear what she said.
She said it was hard to open.
Oh, hard to open.
Yeah.
I agree. It is kind of a challenge. I think they could maybe think that, since they're kind of reinventing the region anyway. It's like, maybe don't do that anymore. Maybe go with a traditional cage. Yeah, I'm just saying.
That's the oh, this is our traditional method, so we're gonna stick with it.
Yeah,
Well, it looked
exactly.
good. It looked good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it
then
does.
I
It
had to
looks.
get a screwdriver to open it.
Yeah, you know, Nancy, I have done that in the past. I've had to use a screwdriver. Yep.
Dave has it.
Right there. Yeah. Now you're right, Dave. I did use the foil knife tonight, so that was my refined version. But so some interesting things about the winemaking family. Cleto Chiarli is the winemaking house, and they began in the 1800s. And they began in a way that is extremely common in Italy. They basically, Cleto Chiarli was the name of the man that owned a hotel and had a restaurant. And back then they made all their own wines. They didn't buy wines. And he was better at it than most people. So he gained fame for being an excellent winemaker. And it all grew from there. And it's still family owned and controlled. His great grandsons actually run it to this day. Mauro and Anselmo.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of neat. And they work with all 4 of the major varietals of Lambrusco, making the different styles of Lambrusco. So those are all available.
I always find it interesting that it seems like there's more like family owned and passed down vineyards like in old world, like France and Italy. And I don't know if that's, I mean, obviously we started later in California, but I don't know that after you get past, like you said, it's their great grandchildren.
Right.
After you get past the 3rd generation, it would be really hard. Who runs it? How do you split it up? All of that stuff. I mean, because family businesses are difficult.
Oh, for sure.
And I feel like we see that though in Spain and France and Italy a lot, where it's still family owned, even though, I mean, like, I don't know, it feels like New World passes from one to the other more often.
Well, I think you make a good point. And I think a good point, a good representative of what you're saying is even the Mondavi family, as famous as they were, didn't make it past the 3rd generation before it was sold and split off and destroyed. So as soon as Robert died, the next 2 generations fought over the empire and destroyed it. And so now you have only 2 of the Mondavis making good quality wine, and the rest of them using the Mondavi name with 2 completely different ownerships, and one group making a bunch of cheap stuff that I would never put in the store, and then Michael and Isabella who make beautiful wines, but then it's harder to sell them because the rest of the family is ruining the name.
Huh.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that's not one kid.
That's right. Keep it-
Yeah, they have to compete with over-marketed name.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because now you have Mondavi Coastal, which is garbage. You have Mondavi, you know.
Mondavi, whatever I can put in the trunk of the car and still drink it on the beach, Mondavi.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And you know what? For that purpose, it'd be fine.
And as the attorney here said, contract.
Yeah, right.
There you go.
So I talked about Cleto Chiarli. The other name that's prominent on the label is Cialdini, and that's the name of the vineyard. Cialdini is actually an Italian hero from the 1800s who was instrumental in unifying Italy into one strong nation and creating the borders that they now have. So within Italy, Cialdini is a national hero, you know, like along the lines of George Washington and that kind of a thing for us. And he was born, his homestead where he was born was where this vineyard is now. No, not for wine. For unifying the country.
For unifying the country. So they named it the vineyard after him, so that like in homage to him.
Oh, will you pull up the pictures now? Let's look at how completely unattractive and boring this area is where they grow these grapes.
Okay, wait.
This is always our it's always our like landscape porn or something. Because
this is
like
like-
when we talked about
There
yeah,
you
look
go.
at- yeah, no. Oh yeah, no.
No,
You should
no.
like you guys saw like during our last meeting when we were talking about how gorgeous it is where they were growing the left coast wines up in Oregon, and now here we have this gorgeous area and oh my
Yeah,
Yeah,
nothing like
kitties.
thing in America looks like.
Horrible.
Can we go by the $1 Italian houses there?
yeah, right. Would that be okay? And then here's another one.
Is that the estate? That whole building complex was the winery there?
That
in the last
no,
photo?
this is no, this is a city and their cities are surrounded by the vineyards. They come up that close to it.
Wow.
And then this is an estate. It is not this estate. I wanted to get pictures of the Cleto Chiarli, but they had them so stylized on their website that it just was hard to even see what's going on. It was this combination of black and white and all red, but no actual color. And anyway.
So this is the whole vineyard. What's the difference between the red area then and is that red and white?
That's different kinds of grapes.
Right, but is it red grapes and white
Oh.
grapes?
Good call. Probably,
Okay.
but I don't know for
And
sure.
because from here it looks like red and white, but I don't
Right.
know.
It doesn't necessarily follow that way.
Okay.
But yes, it most likely is.
Okay.
And there's a castle behind it.
And
He said that's just.
that's just this,
state,
that's just
like,
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, oh yeah, that's where we live. Great Grampy gave us this place. Awesome. So, and then something I wanted to do just because I created this for the store recently, and I thought, well, this would be kind of cool to throw in here, and it's some good content, is explanations of wine scores. A lot of times when I'm creating my wine talkers to tell everyone about the wines in the store, I tend not to put anything that's below 90 points, even though that's kind of a silly thing to do. And so I decided instead I'm just going to try and be more educational about it, and that 90 is not the lowest level of good wine. 90 is the lowest level of outstanding wine. So when when I have some $14 wines that have 86 points, and we were hiding that, and I thought, well, that's silly because if you see here, 86 points is very good wine with special qualities. That's above solid. Like you could be all the way down to 80 points and have a solid, well-made wine, and if you're spending $12, okay. But everything that we have actually is above 84. But anyway, I thought this was kind of fun and interesting to see that, what they really stand for out there. And so when you get because I have a lot of people come in like, well, I only want 90-point wine and above. It's like, well, you only want outstanding wine and above. I'm like, okay, if that's what you want, but don't assume you can get that on the fly. I mean, my point is to give full respect to those people that do pull in those numbers.
What's an example of a wine that's
My
like,
cardboard. They plug in.
Um,
barefoot?
barefoot. Yep, that would.
No, I don't. Uh-huh.
Barefoot was one of
I'd say probably barefoot, even though honestly, I think barefoot would be down in the 75 to 79. Yeah, probably. I guess Boone Farm, Mad Dog 2020. No, Woodbridge would be up in the 80 to 84. The Target $5 rosé is probably 70 to 79.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it would have to have.
The wine that I drink like isn't as bad as you think.
That would be mediocre.
That would be
Not
probably,
recommended.
unless it has actual flaws where it smells like dead animal or.
Not recommended.
Unless it's supposed to smell like dead animal.
I want you to find me a wine that's like that.
No, why would he do that?
Rachel wants to know what the marketing strategy is for that.
Right. I'll tell you one thing.
Marketing strategy, it's supposed to smell like dead animal.
Or you bring that to the store and then you have you're like everything
What do you
else
say? I've got some charcoal, a little graphite, and a slight hint of 2-day roadkill raccoon. I don't know if I'm gonna pick that bottle up. And I bought some nice wine. All know my Aldi stories.
Exactly.
All these stories.
It's like, I like seeing that though, because I agree, like I didn't know that. So
you don't make the shelf talk.
I don't make the shelf
No,
talkers.
but
and
it's-
I just rely on whatever your father puts in front of me to drink. So.
But honestly, if you're above 84 points, you're drinking a nice
Mhm.
bottle of wine. You really are. So there's no reason to worry about even 80. Not that I don't see anyone. There's a skew in the market where people are afraid to put anything below like 84. Even they don't even if they get below that, they don't even advertise it. Like nobody's like, we got an 80. No one even does it because the whole market is just so skewed to saying, oh, heck no. And like, but they said it was good wine. It's an 80, but anyway.
Who's responsible for these scores? Like, who is there like a panel? Like, who said it's a 79 or an 83? Like, who?
The subjective quality of that is one of the things that people argue about, because you have wine enthusiast, wine spectator. You have some individuals that have gotten their names.
Magazines that he just mentioned.
Right.
Yeah.
You got Willie Wong, James Suckling, Robert Parker. These guys are renowned sommeliers that have, years and years of work, of experience, wines and wineries. And so they've gained a combination of expertise and fame for their opinion. Next it'll be the Vaudreuil Index, and we'll work on that one. So that's what it comes with. And not everyone actually uses the same thing. Not everyone does that, that 50 to 100. Some people do a 1 to 10. Some people do will do a 1 to 20. But by far, the 50 to 100 has taken over the market. So that's why I stuck with that as well, because it really does dominate the wine rankings out there. Because some people say, well, this is stupid. Why is 50 the worst possible wine?
Right.
Why is it 0 the worst
Right.
possible wine?
Yeah, that should be.
They don't want to take people.
So I'll introduce next week's wine, and then we'll stop recording, and then we can just talk about all kinds of whatever everyone wants.
Okay.
So next week is going to be like a welcome home hug for many people, because I decided
Except for Brian.
Because I know I've been pushing us into some kind of interesting, I think interesting wine geek kind of styles, but we're going to run back to California, Sonoma, and we're going to have a nice Californian, delicious, big, robust red blend.
We had this weekend.
Red blend.
Yes. So the Angels and Cowboys proprietary red blend is a Zinfandel dominant red blend. It actually has about 6 different varietals in it. Solid point maker. Hey, it's an 89, and yet it's still good. But you can also see the subjectivity to it, because
Yeah,
you've got
91
91 versus 89. I mean,
Right.
it's all great stuff. This guy, with red blends, steaks, hamburgers, grilled portobello mushrooms, barbecue ribs, go nuts. It goes with everything. So.
I hear a filet night in our future.
Oh yeah, we'll do a filet. It's actually maybe a little
Filet
big
is
for
some-
filet, but
It's too big for filet?
it'll be all right.
Okay.
We'll make it work.
I
I'll put blue
like
cheese on it.
because they're lean.
All right, we're gonna do filet with blue cheese.
Okay, you can have blue cheese. Ashley and I will skin
How
the blue
about
cheese.
filet with grilled
You
portobello?
don't have to be a
Yes.
bacon wrapped fillet.
Yeah, there we
There
go.
you go.
That
That and with the
That-
Mhm.
Blue cheese.
Good point, Dave. That'll help get it to handle it. So that's what we're going to do next week. I hope everyone enjoyed the night. Let's.
Okay, wait.
Right.
But before we cheers, does anybody have any last comments about the wine or any questions about the wine? Because
Oh,
then
wait.
after we cheers, it's like our after hours.
No one's allowed to talk with me.
Yeah. Only let yourself talk.
I'm sorry. I really prepared for tonight. I hope.
Yeah. Any
I feel-
questions?
I feel like you just gave us a really good overview of where it came from and why it came from, because I think it's unusual. Everyone's used to sparkling things that are white,
Mhm.
All right.
and this is not. And it's just
Good.
got a strange and unusual, very beautiful fizz. And I know that
Really
fizz is my 9th grade word, but I appreciate that. I would like to have this on hand.
Yeah, I probably don't have the words to say what I'm saying either, but I mean, like the fizziness is just enough. It's not too much. It's just like just a little bit, and it goes down right away, which I kind of like.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like it. I
I'm-
like this kind of sparkling.
I like it too. You actually don't see it continuing to, even though
Right.
you can taste it, you don't see the bubbles continue to come up like you would see in a sparkling white.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, this would be really good with filet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can
you could
totally-
totally do it.
I can see
Yeah.
that.
But I think it would be the coolest barbecue wine where you're there and you're barbecuing, you have people there and you're like, oh, this is what I'm serving. And they're like, what? And you blow people's minds because nobody, people are not drinking sparkling reds. And I think they're just really, really, and by the way, Thanksgiving, amazing because it goes with everything.
Absolutely.
Go
Yeah,
with it.
your friends are different from mine. Just saying.
Trying to get into bottle was hard. I think that's the kind of wine you would hand to a friend and say, would you mind opening this while I turn over the stick?
That's good, Jerry. I like that.
Fantastic.
Let them just, I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
want to be
right.
embarrassed. Yeah.
That's right. Now I've got a little short blade screwdriver I keep in the kitchen. I just snap the ends off. Well, I see that was a, I couldn't figure out any other
No, we
thing.
didn't like that.
All right.
Yeah, it's a
Good
challenge.
choice.
Yeah. I say we all need to send a letter to Lambrusco, and they would just call us.
So what's the wine next week besides Zen? Do they tell you? They don't have to tell you on the California blend, do they?
You're right, they don't. But it actually it's Zin and then Malbec, Cab, Petit Verdot, and then Carignan, and then it
Wow.
ends with some Merlot.
Okay.
Wow, that's
Wow.
a shoot, right?
Heavy red.
Oh, it's
Six
a lot.
different
Yeah, I
wines
told
that you
you.
just named.
And by the way, I remembered all that. Holy
I
cow.
bet you don't remember anything I say, anything about wine or beer.
But it's my job, baby.
There you go.
All right, let's have a toast, everybody. Thank you for
Cheers.
coming.
Thank you for coming.
Content.
Hey, guys.
Cheers.
We'll see you next time. Got to run.
Bye, Jerry.
Bye.
Good night.